Are you ready? Are you ready to escape the echo chamber? Are you ready to push past the propaganda? Are you ready to dismantle the deception? Then let's go. I am ready. I am ready. Are you ready? Excellent. Excellent. It's Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj is a lot of people are talking about Nicki Minaj right now. A lot of people are talking about Nicki Minaj. But the crazy thing I'm noticing is what they're saying. So a lot of people are talking about Nicki Minaj, but the question is, what are they saying? In fact, let's pull up comments. Okay. Uh, they're saying a lot of different things. A lot of different things. What we're gonna say, what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about what Nicki Minaj actually said. What Nicki Minaj actually was talking about. Because a lot of people want to use what Nicki want to take clips, want to take portions. Oh, I'm just gonna take this little clip, just snip it, and use it to fit my agenda. And I mean, you've got people on YouTube doing that. You've got Newsweek. Newsweek actually did had an article about it, and the way if you don't even click on the article, if you just see like the headline and everything, they're they're suggesting a narrative that isn't at all accurate. But like, if you saw the before even the interview, before Nicki Minaj and Joe Budden had their interview together, um, if you see what Nicki Minaj and Joe Budden did on her live, on her IG live, because she got into some stuff there, and she said a lot of things that are very important. In fact, funny thing is, I did a poll on the community tab over the weekend, and it's the poll basically says, what is the things that are most dangerous to the black community? What are the most potentially most dangerous things to the black community? I said the diaspora war. So that's the whole black Americans versus black immigrants, the gender wars, black men versus black women, voting rights. The oh yeah, you can't no early voting and stuff, no early mail voting and everything like that, and the I'm trying to even think what the last one was. Um, but the point is, the number one thing, the two top things that people realize, that the community realizes are a danger to the community, are the diaspora wars and the gender wars. So that's what we got to talk about. We got to talk about the gender war, because right now you've got this space, and over the past few months I'm looking at this space and I'm seeing just increasing levels of nonsense. I'm seeing black women saying the most vicious, ridiculous stuff about black men. Like, they sound like this, the stuff they're saying sounds like it was coming out of a Nazi's mouth, neo-Nazi groups. And then I'm seeing black men saying the same thing about black women, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But we got to talk about the interview, because Nikki actually talks about some of these things. In fact, she made a statement. She made a statement that got some people pissed off. Made a statement that got under some people's skin. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase what she said. But all you dudes that be rating women on your podcast, you can take those ratings and shove it where the sun don't shine. I paraphrased. She used slightly different language at the end. She didn't say, she essentially said where the sun don't shine, but that's not exactly what she said. Um, it is what it is. Okay, so what are you saying? Are you saying that you think that it's not a problem? It's cool that the current state of where black men and black women are? Because right now, it's what I'm seeing is pure, like, just it's nonstop drama, and it's toxic. It's toxic as hell because like stuff that could be had in a regular conversation is being said online, and a lot of people are like, okay, if I can say the most ridiculous, the most over the top stuff about black men or about black women, you got black men say, if I can say the most over the top stuff about black women, I get more ratings. Black women saying, if I could say the most over the top crazy out of this world stuff about black men, I get more ratings, I get more views. And that's another question we have to ask. Why is this stuff being so heavily promoted? Like, is this what people? Is this what black people are looking for, or is this stuff being pumped up artificially? Uh, Hello, my guy. Welcome to the stream, Trey's Town. Welcome, because it's crazy. But look at what. So let's go back to what Nicki Minaj said. All you dudes that be rating women on your podcast, you can take those ratings and shove it where the sun don't shine. Now, who she's talking about? Because let's take a little trip in the Wayback Machine. Take a little trip in the Wayback Machine, and let's realize that, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, Kevin Samuels, Nicki Minaj is doing a live on her IG. Kevin Samuels is in her comment section, and she's like, "Oh wait, Kevin Samuels, is that okay? Let me pull you up." She pulls him up onto the live. They start talking. They have a conversation, and a lot of people may have expected the conversation to go one way, but it didn't go that way. It was a very cordial. It was a very cordial conversation. She even asked him to rate her, like, and you could tell that she may have been testing him. She was like, "Okay, let me see what kind of time this, Kevin Samuels is on," because no doubt she's heard about Kevin Samuels. No doubt, in fact, she even said she had seen clips from Kevin Samuels, and so now having Kevin Samuels face to face, she's like, "Okay, let me test. Let me see if the stuff I'm hearing about him is what I'm going to see when I'm dealing with him, face to face, so to speak." And the conversation went real smooth. But some people didn't like that. Some people were like, "Okay, Trey's Town. It's just the fact that people just like keeping black people down." Yeah, listen, there is an intentional, coordinated effort to keep drama, to keep negativity going, to keep kind of bull, all kinds of garbage going on, keep black people at each other's throats. Because if we're at each other's throats, you know what we're not doing? We're not building. If we're at each other's throats, we're not improving our own situations. If we're at each other's throats, people that want us people that want us out the way get to keep us out the way because we're doing their job for them. Like, it is what it is. Like, that's what it is. Um, and so, like, but Kevin Samuels and her were talking, and it went well. But then a lot of people afterwards was like, "Oh, Kevin should have came at her like he came at that, average at best chick." And I'm like, okay, let's just take a look at this for a second. That in itself doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Kevin Samuels to go at Nicki Minaj at the average at best chick the same way he went at the average at best chick. Why? For if for no other reason that Nicki Minaj is not average at best. Nicki Minaj is not like, stop it, stop. And anybody that tries to say that is capping. Pure capping. It's not. It is objectively untrue. Nicki Minaj is not average at best. Nicki Minaj is not your average woman. She's not. So you could say, "Oh well, they're women that are better looking." Okay, but she is good looking, and she is famous. She is rich. There's so many qualities that Nicki Minaj has. She has her own bit. She's a megastar. So to say that there's no comparison between Nicki Minaj and the woman who's average at best, there's no comparison. None. None. So for people to be claiming that Kevin Samuels should have came at Nicki Minaj the same way he came at Average at Best, that makes no sense. Because Nicki Minaj is not average at best. She's not. Um, Kevin Samuels is adding fuel to the fire like all these other red pill high value YouTubers. But you see, okay, PJ, I hear what you're saying. And a lot of people don't like, and even it appeared that Nicki, when she was having this conversation with Kevin, she wanted to see for herself. But what Kevin proved in that moment was, hey, I'm perfectly capable of having just a respectful conversation. Black man, black woman. We just have a very, you know, a respectful discussion about black relationships. Like that's it. So he proved in that moment, okay. But the question is, he did that. He proved that. But now, last week, because this was like a month ago. Last week, Nicki Minaj makes the statement, but all you dudes that be rating women on your podcast, you can take those ratings and shove it where the sun don't shine. It's not exactly, she didn't say where the sun don't shine. She used some stronger language in place of where the sun don't shine. But that's what she said. So now the question is, are the same people that were criticizing Kevin Samuels, are they now right? Do they now get to say, see, Kevin, you should have came at her like same way as average at best, because now she's coming at you. Because a lot of people may have thought that. I know when I first saw that clip, I was like, wow, that's different, considering it seemed like they had a very cordial interaction. It seemed like Nicki Minaj and Kevin Samuels had a real cordial interaction. So for her to come back and say, all you do is that be rating women on your podcast, you can take those ratings and shove it where the sun don't shine. I said that seems kind of like out of line, especially since you seem to have gotten along so well. But the question is, was she talking about Kevin Samuels? That's what's key. It may have seemed to some initially that she was talking about Kevin Samuels, and there are people that are trying to spin it that like she was talking about Kevin Samuels, and there are people that are trying to spin it that she's talking about all black men. But if you listen to more of what Nicki Minaj says, you get a clearer picture of what she's saying. Because a lot of people thought, in fact, even if you take a look at and if you, for instance, I went on Twitter and just put into the search bar Nicki Minaj embarrassed black woman, because that's something she says later on about about black men who are embarrassing black women. And there's a bunch of people that they've got stuff on Twitter where they're trying to basically, so these videos, Nicki Minaj checks black men, and the captions that they're putting here make it seem like Nicki Minaj was attacking black men across the board. That's what the captions make it seem like. But the question is that what she's actually doing? Because like I said, you've got a lot of people who have their own agenda. You got a lot of people who are on some nonsense and are trying to push this agenda, trying to keep the gender wars going for whatever reason. In some cases, I think these people have their personal issues. In some cases, I think these people are just willing to do anything, anything for a dollar. And I would not be surprised if there are people behind the scenes, non-black people, that are actually fueling this constant disrespect, the gender war. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if you got some non-black people, non-black organizations tossing, manipulating things behind the scenes to keep the negativity going, to keep this bull, all of this ridiculousness going. But she says a lot of things. I mean, in addition to talking about just the ratings women, she's talking about this lace front discussions, because she's talking about, like, why are dudes on YouTube talking about lace fronts? And she's like, no, these are discussions that shouldn't be going on in public. This is a conversation that you have with your woman behind. So she didn't say black men shouldn't be commenting on women's lace fronts. She's like, this is a conversation you have with your woman behind closed doors. Because check this out. Check this out. Um, if your woman, your girlfriend, your fiance, your wife, if her hair is looking messy or you don't like the way she looks, are you going to get her out in front of a whole bunch of people and then say, "Oh man, oh you look horrible. You look like what's wrong with like put yourself together." Are you going to say that in front of a whole bunch of people? Do you think your relationship is still going to be intact if you do that? Do you think your relationship should still be intact if you do some stuff like that? If you have your woman out in front of a whole bunch of people and decide that you're going to publicly berate her appearance, like do you I mean, come on, I want to hear somebody in the chat. Do y'all think, does anybody think that that is cool, that that is acceptable, that that is at all called for, to have your black woman in public, and in public to just start talking about, oh man, you look a mess, you need to get yourself together? Oh yeah, yeah, like in front of a whole bunch of people. Does anybody think that that's acceptable? I don't. I'm not hearing anything, so I'm guessing nobody thinks that that's cool. Nobody thinks that, like, yeah, yeah, you can rock like that. You should do that. You should take your woman in public and in front of a whole bunch of people, tell her how bad she looks, and she needs to get herself together, and her lace fronts. She shouldn't be wearing lace fronts, and she looks, no, like what she said makes 1,000% sense. 1,000% sense. Don't be taken. Don't. There's no reason for this conversation to be happening on YouTube, just publicly. Especially, there's no reason for it to be happening on YouTube if you're not even talking to black women. Think about it. If I'm not, if I'm, because you could say, oh no, it's constructive criticism. No, thank you, PJ. No, um, if I'm saying, okay, it's constructive criticism, I'm just trying to, help black women be better. Okay, let's go with that. If I'm saying I just want to help black women be better, that's my objective. But my audience is all men. Come on, stop capping. You're lying, and so you're lying to yourself. You're lying to everybody else, but you're full of it because you're sitting there trying to pretend that, oh, I'm just trying to give black women constructive criticism, but my audience is all men. Come on. Come on. And now, what if your audience isn't even all black men? What if your audience isn't even all black men? Now, that's because there's dudes in the space that is like that, clearly. Because there's dudes in the space that clearly are talking to large audiences of non-black men, and they're berating black women in front of these non-black men. Now, you tell me, if these non-black men will stand for them berating non-black women the same way. Think about that. They will sit there because there's a bunch of dudes that will let you disrespect black women all day long. They're like, they ain't our women. If you want to disrespect your woman in front of everybody else, go ahead. They don't got a problem with it. But start disrespecting their woman in front of them and see what happens. But these dudes don't do that because these dudes, because the alphas that these dudes claim to be, they're not even close to it. But they know that in these audiences of, white men and other groups of men, they could say whatever they want to say about black women, and nobody's going to check them. But they don't realize that they're not just disrespecting black women. They're actually disrespecting themselves, and they're showing how clownish they are. But she says it. She says, like, yeah, these are conversations that should be happening with your woman behind closed doors. Did she say anything wrong? Did she say anything wrong? It's not embarrassed black woman season. Why should it be? Like, if we actually, so if as men, We're supposed to be protectors of our communities. So if it's our job to protect Black women, why would we be using social media to just tear them down? That's if that's our job. If our job as men in the community, as Black men, to protect Black women, why would we be on social media just tearing them down? Why? Why? And once again, I know with the argument, oh well, sometimes we got to pull them up. There needs to be accountability. Well, then you need to be talking to Black women, because if your audience is all men, and if your audience is a bunch of non-Black men, then you're not talking to them. This isn't constructive criticism; it's gossip. If I'm if if you've been working out all day, you and a couple of friends, you'll go out drinking or whatever. You've been working out. You didn't think that you sweating too much, but you go out to the bar. You're with a couple of friends. You're all talking and everything, and one of your friends starts talking to a group of people over there, and you see them look at you, and they're laughing and snickering, and then your friend goes to another group, and they're talking, and you see them look at you, and they start snickering. He goes over to another group. You talk to another group. They look at you. They start snickering. And you go to your friend and say, "Hey, what's going on? Why every time you go to a group of people, you'll look at me and start laughing?" He's like, "Oh no, because you stink right now, man. You're sweaty, like you. And so I'm pulling you up. I'm trying to give you constructive criticism." They say, "Wait a minute." You say, "No, you didn't tell me. You told groups of strangers that I have body odor right now. You didn't come tell me. If it was constructive criticism, you would have came and told me. But you didn't tell me. You told that group of people, you laughed. You told that group of people, they laughed. You told that group of people, they laughed. That's not constructive criticism. That's gossip. That's gossip." So there's a lot of dudes in the space that are pretending that they're providing constructive criticism, but they're gossiping. That's it. They're not providing constructive criticism, they're gossiping because they're talking about Black women, but they're not talking to Black women. And nothing, and they're not talking in a way that will actually land. Because if you're going to give constructive criticism, there's a way to deliver it so that the person can receive it too. Remember, there's different levels of this. But if she, if Nicki Minaj was defending women, and as some people have characterized it, if she was attacking men, how is she ending the gender war? There's a reason why I say she's ending the gender war, because she said more than that. She didn't just say it's not embarrassed Black woman season. She said a lot more. And if we take it back to Kevin Samuels, because a lot of people think she was talking about Kevin Samuels. You know what she said about Kevin Samuels? She says, because remember, not only did she have that conversation with Kevin Samuels, after that, a lot of people were criticizing Kevin Samuels, saying, "Oh, he should have told her how it is and broke it down for her. He should have like kept it real with her, like he kept it real with Average at best." Okay, but they may have thought once she said this, oh, see, Kevin played himself. But what she said about Kevin was this. She says, and no, I'm not talking about Kevin Samuels. So when she said, all you do is that be rating women on your podcast, you can take those ratings and shove it where the sun don't shine. She said, I'm not talking about Kevin Samuels. She specifically said, I'm not saying this about Kevin Samuels, because I talked to Kevin Samuels and we had a very respectful conversation. Think about that. They had a conversation. They were talking about Black relationships, but guess what? It didn't have to get negative. It didn't have to get disrespectful. It didn't have to descend into this gender war nonsense. They had a respectful conversation. The space exists for Black men and Black women to talk to each other and to listen to each other and have productive discussions. But there are a bunch of clowns out here that aren't trying to do that. There are a bunch of clowns out here that just want ratings in some cases, and in some cases, they're clowns because, like she says, you got these clowns who are just mad at black women because they got their heart broken. They feel ugly and unwanted, and they got their heart broken, and so now they feel okay. I'm gonna attack black women. Tell me if you think that there's some of these dudes in there in the space that are just bitter and and like harboring these feelings of rejection and resentment towards black women because they got rejected by a black woman. Like it's obvious. Like like there's dudes that have been asked specific questions and they don't want to answer them. Have you ever gotten your and they keep evading the question? But the question is, if she wasn't talking about Kevin Samuels, who was she talking about? Because what she said was, she said this doesn't apply to all men, but she says it's talking those podcast dudes. So who was she talking about? If she's talking about those podcast dudes, I think I know who she's talking about. And guess what? I'm not the only one who believes it because the people that I think it is, they seem to think she was talking to them too because they took it personally. They took it personally, and they did a their own response to it because they felt some type of way. And quite frankly, she probably was talking about that. Yeah, she was talking about Fresh and Fit. That's my theory. My theory is she was talking about Fresh and Fit, and even it seems so because Joe Budden had even commented on Fresh and Fit back when the Asian doll situation happened, and their whole we're not night riders, we don't dabble in the dark, that nonsense came out. And what's crazy is their defense. Is what's crazy is the position that they're putting up right now. By the way, let's once again let's just take a little trip in the Wayback Machine for anybody who doesn't know about Fresh and Fit. So if you don't know about Fresh and Fit, we got to talk about Fresh and Fit for a little bit, just to give you a little bit of background. Fresh and Fit, two guys who have a wildly successful podcast, very successful, gets lots of views, they go live like every night, I guess 5 nights a week or something like that. They got plenty of people watching. Yeah, they're making a killing on YouTube. What they have a habit of doing is doing their lives. I think it's Fitz apartment, and he put up like he's basically built a studio in his apartment, and they have women come over and they like do a round table thing and a panel. So they're talking, the women are talking, and they're having conversations back and forth about various subjects, mostly around relationship stuff. But what Fresh and Fit do, they have a habit of they've had controversy. So controversy, uh, one of the controversies began last year when Fit was accused of, and what he did was there was a woman in the fitness space whom he contacted and said, "Hey, do you want to collaborate?" And she was like, "Okay, yeah, let's do a collab." She's like, she looked him up, said, "Yeah, let's do a collab." He's like, "Okay, yeah, you can come to my studio. I'm in Florida, Miami. Come to my studio. We could do a collaboration." And yeah, so she was like, "Okay, cool." And then he hits her back up and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, uh, I don't just collab with women I'm not messing with." She's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh yeah. If you want to come on the show, we got a date." And he starts off with the word date. He eventually ends with, "Okay, yeah, I want to smash." So basically, either if you want to come on my show, we're gonna smash. You have to have sex with me. But here's the crazy thing. He later on tries to spin the situation as if, well, I was just being honest. No. If you were being honest, you wouldn't have told her, "Hey, do you want to collab?" Because you used the collab to get her attention and try to use a bait and switch. She called you out on it. She exposed your DMs, and then he tries to do a uh, we're dropping the receipts. And his receipt session of dropping receipts was basically rereading all of the receipts that the woman and other women had brought against him, and trying to spin it in his favor. Like that same receipt that shows he's trying to leverage his show to get laid, and he's trying to act like, yeah, I'm just being honest. Like, no, you came at her under false pretenses. You said to her, does she want to be on your show? And then you had another woman whom he was trying to get, like, hey, do you want to provide us some adult content for OnlyFans? And she was like, no, no, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna give you free content. Like, we're gonna negotiate prices. And yeah, Joe to go, yes, extremely unprofessional. It was crazy. But when this all blew up, a lot of people started calling them out. A lot of people started looking at, like, what's wrong with y'all dudes? Your dudes is some clowns, and they're claiming to be like alpha males. They're claiming to be male improvement in the male improvement space. They're claiming to be the individuals that will teach guys how to get girls. Okay, so if you're claiming that you're going to teach dudes how to have game, how to get women, and your method of getting women is trying to strong arm them into sex, trying to, hey, either if you want if you want this business deal, you got to have sex with me. Like, that's not game. That's not game. Like, that's see, the only reason, in fact, yeah, it's sexual harassment. So yeah, because she posted, okay, it's just Kenny came on. Yeah, because she posted the DMs but omitted a certain name she had used, and he then goes and posted the entire thing. Okay, so now Kenny, it's just Kenny. What did the name have to do with anything? Did the name change any of the details? Because she says, yeah, I realized that I didn't want this person involved, this other person, this third party who really had nothing to do with it, but she's going back and forth with him in the DMs, and she posted, and so she removes the name from the DM because she's like, yeah, I don't want to drag this dude who's not in it into the middle of this. So, like, Kenny, and so then, yeah, the Nina unrated stuff, yeah, their courses are like $500 plus. Yeah, exactly. They're charging $500 to teach dudes how to get women, and their method is, uh, if you want to come on my show, you got to have sex with me. Like, so right then and there, these dudes are looking like clowns. But that's not all, because that whole thing blew up last year, and then things simmered down. They lost a ton of subscribers because they was into it with Aber and Preach. A bunch of other YouTubers were coming at them, and okay, yeah, just kidding. Absolutely, I'm agree. Thank you. I'm just kidding. Um, it's just kidding. But I'm like, they was so many, like, they lost a bunch of subscribers, but then things died down and they started coming back. Their subscriber count started going back up, and things were looking good for them. And then the Asian doll situation happened. So Fresh had, connects with Asian doll's manager. Say, hey, you want to come on the show? Asian doll comes on the show. Frit and her wind up getting into it, and that blows up. Now the Shade Room is like posting stuff. They're like, this dude is just talking reckless to black women. And then what's worse than that, oh, the name had nothing to do with anything, but he spun it to make themselves victims. Exactly. Like that's what that's what Fit did. Like, they did a 4 hour or like 4 hour live stream where they tried to spin the receipts that the woman had provided against them, and try to spin it as if that was in their favor. Said, yeah, we got the receipts. And I'm like, those aren't your receipts. Those are the woman's receipts. That proves everything they said against you. But we fast forward to Asian Doll. The Asian Doll situation blows up, and then the other footage of them comes up where they're talking about black women, and it starts with them talking about this dating app, and they're talking about this the black dating app, and so Fitz like, oh yeah, we don't use that the black dating app. We don't dabble in the dark. We're not night riders. Like they said some stuff that like some just off the wall stuff. Like they had a list of phrases of how they don't mess with black women. They had a list of them, a list of phrases to demonstrate how they don't mess with black women. And so they go through this list of phrases, you know, uh, Lucretia, and then like making stupid statements about black women, and people start going in on them. That's when Joe Budden, he writes a post about how disrespectful these dudes are, and that's when they catch the eye. I'm presuming of somebody like a Nicki Minaj, because it blows up and everybody's like, "Wow, who are these clowns?" Um, Imagine paying these guys. They're supposed to have game, but they are using their platform and influence to get women. Most men are not rich public figures. Exactly. Exactly. Because if you're trying to teach dudes how to have game, then you should be able to show dudes, okay, I'm not I'm going to go to a place where women don't know me, where they don't know I have money, and I'm going to like either cold approach or whatever approach I'm using. I'm going to use this to show you how to build rapport, how to gain interest, and how to close, all kinds of things. But but these dudes are demonstrating that they don't know what the hell they're doing. Because if that's what you have to do to get sex, then how the hell are you running a platform where you're selling courses to dudes on how to get women? It makes no sense. But that's the background of these dudes is they've had a lot of controversy. They've exposed to have some very extreme dislike for black women. And what happened is after they're questioned and confronted on their statements about black women, originally they say, "Oh, it's just our preference. What's wrong? Women can have a preference, and nobody bats an eye. A woman can want a guy that's 6 feet tall. Woman can want a guy that makes six figures in the bank, and nobody bats an eye." Now, mind you, their entire platform is to bat an eye about the preferences women have. That's their entire platform. But let's go with it, because their original claim was it's just a preference. Fast forward to now, and they're claiming, oh, it's just jokes. Wait a minute. You said it was a preference. Now it's just jokes. Yeah, we date black women. Now they're literally saying they date black women. They're literally, because they responded to Nicki Minaj, and they're really claiming, oh no, we date black women. We have no problem with black women. Yeah, but you said it was a preference. That's what you said. You said it was a preference. Now it's just a joke. Like that's why but you've got these dudes who can't be taken seriously, and it's understandable why Nicki Minaj is coming at these scumbags. At these scumbags. So there are people who are out there who are trying to make it seem as if Nicki Minaj is coming at black men. No, she's coming at scumbags like that. That's who she was coming at. Scumbags like that. And I think specifically, she was actually coming for those two. Because when she said, y'all that be rating women on your podcast, y'all could take those ratings and shove it where the sun don't shine. I think she was talking to Fresh and Fit. She wasn't talking about all black men. She was talking about those scumbags and a handful of other dudes in that sector. That's who she was talking about. But there are people who will try to claim that she was talking about all black men. Why? Because there are people that want to keep the drama going. They want to keep the bull going. They want to keep the division going. They want to keep the gender war going. But they have been doing this for a long time, and it was only when this happened with Asian Doll did something become a problem. Yeah. So yeah, because they would bring black women on, they would just talk recklessly as black women. If the black woman starts talking back, get out. They kick her out, and they call it like Frank Castle. They have just really, really have some. Oh wow. By the way, I have to stop just right now because I have my first super chat. Joe to go. Thank you, Joe. Thank you really much. I really appreciate it. uh, and yeah, and so they start they're doing this on a regular basis of bringing black women on, just being disrespectful to these black women, and then kicking them off the if the black woman takes it, then they just keep disrespecting them. If she says something and tries to argue back, okay, you're out of here, get out. And they're like, yeah, we Frank Castled her. Frank Castle is the name of the Punisher. And they feel themselves. But it's funny because when you get these dudes in a room with Brittany, oh wow, Brittany Renner, and she refused to go on the show. Why? Because for all people can say Brittany Renner is just a pretty face. Brittany Renner is a shrewd woman. And let me tell you something. This is a message for black men. This is a message for men. Do not underestimate a pretty face. Do not underestimate. Like it's easy to look at a pretty face and think she's just a pretty face, but you do so at your own peril. Do not underestimate a pretty face, because a pretty face, she could be smart and she could be a great chick, but she could be smart and she can destroy your life if you're not paying attention. That's why you don't just look at a pretty woman and assume she's just a pretty face, because a pretty face can really make sure that can make you regret underestimating her really quickly. Um, but when we go to what Nikki was talking about, Nikki really put it in perspective. She's like, these dudes need to just shut the hell up. That's what she said. These dudes need to shut the hell up. Because they're going on these platforms and they're just using these platforms to embarrass black women. And it's funny because Joe Button says, she's like, yeah, if I had been there, if I would have been there, like I wish these clowns would. And Joe Button says, but yeah, but you would never go there. And she's like, yes, that's the point. Because they're and what they're doing is they're getting a lot of up and coming or aspiring IG models. So if a woman who wants to, she's trying to get her IG page going, she's trying to get some exposure, she'll see these guys have a large base, hundreds of thousands. They're like 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. I don't know how much they have on Instagram, but she'll be like, oh wow, I can go on their podcast and I can get exposure. And whether she knows or not, she doesn't realize that she's going to go there and she's going to get disrespected. She doesn't realize it. She may not realize it. Some women may realize it and be like, okay, I'm willing to accept the disrespect for the, IG models and OnlyFans girls. Yes, exactly. Yeah, she's like, they may be like, I'm willing to endure the disrespect just for the sake of getting some exposure. But like that's why somebody like Nicki Minaj was like, no, yeah, I wouldn't go in there. Like, and Brittany Renner, Brittany Renner didn't go on there. Brittany Renner didn't go on there because she was like, I'm not gonna be in your camp, so you could just do whatever you want to, where you could be in complete control and then kick me out whenever I say something you don't like. And it's funny because you see how differently they interacted with her when she was in a position of, well, this isn't your studio, and how she dressed them down from the very beginning of the conversation. She just dressed them down, brought them, and like made them feel this small, and then she fell back. But it was really good to see that Nicki Minaj said some more stuff, because that was her criticism. Don't these and her criticism once again, because she then explicitly says, this is not to all black men. I'm not talking to all, I'm talking to a couple of clowns. I'm talking to a few clowns that is on this internet just disrespecting and using the internet, using social media and using their platforms to disrespect Black women, to embarrass Black women. That's who I'm talking to. But she had a message. Like, this is what, when I saw this, I was like, yes, this hope. Because when I've, over the past several months, I've been seeing, and I don't even want to say these, but there's these peoples in these divestiture spaces, because the swirling spaces, whatever y'all want to do, if that's your preference, cool, whatever. The divestiture space was just so much more like these are like militant swirlers who are like calling for like calling for some real heinous things, like let's get Black men off the planet, like some crazy stuff that they were calling for. So seeing Nicki Minaj with her huge platform say what she said is a beautiful thing, because like it or not, realize, and why wouldn't you like it, a lot of Black women respect Nicki Minaj. So what she said next is so important, because she talked about how Black men need to be loved. Like, and that blew my mind. But that was the part that wasn't being promoted. That's the part that everybody wasn't sharing that clip. That's the part that they're not talking about in all of these articles. They're not talking about the part where Nicki Minaj said Black men need to be loved, where she starts talking about how Black men have had it so hard because they're never allowed to feel and express themselves. She starts talking about how even as boys, black boys aren't allowed to express emotion, that they're not, and so they're told from a young age, oh, just suck it up. So that has an effect. If and it has an effect where Black men get older and don't know how to properly express and deal with emotions, process emotions, and have a certain hardness and callousness. But she was talking about how Black men need to be loved, and she's telling that message to her fans, to her followers. So now imagine, a lot of people heard what she said about, the fresh and fits, but the message that she had about making sure that Black men feel loved is such a crucial message, because now it's setting the stage where Black men and Black women can start having some discussions from a place of greater honesty, a place of greater honesty, and with empathy, with trying to understand where the other is coming from. Because no problems are going to be solved between Black men and Black women if we don't listen to each other. If Black men and Black women are just talking past each other or talking about each other instead of talking to each other, nothing gets solved. Nothing gets solved. You have these dudes on their podcast talking hella mess about Black women. Black women, oh, their wigs, their weaves, lace fronts. They'll be talking this, but they'll be talking to an audience of Black men, and all these Black men is like, yeah, this is why Black women ain't nothing. And then you have a group of Black women listening to this Black woman with her podcast, her channel, and she's like, yeah, Black men ain't nothing. They're trifling. They don't do nothing. They're not successful. Boom. And she's just talking, and these Black women like, yeah. And these toxic attitudes they don't just stay on the internet, because the person, whether the person who's spouting these believes it, there's a bunch of people watching that will start to internalize that. Case in point, just take a look at what happened with Kugler, where it's in that situation. It's almost all of the people, the tellers, the manager in the bank, the cops, Black people, but they saw nothing wrong with treating this man like that. Nothing wrong with it. Um, and it's there's potential for growth. There's potential for things to move forward. And so what Nicki Minaj did, and if you haven't seen that clip, Um, who did it? I think it was the Shade Room. Yeah, Shade Room, and that's a great thing. The Shade Room actually posted that clip of of her IG her IG live with Joe Button. They played the clip of her, telling these podcast dudes what they could do with their ratings. They played the clip of her talking about, listen, this isn't about Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels was very respectful. So the Shade Room, and I like what they're doing. It seems like the Shade Room is putting out the information to like try to say, hey, like, listen, this doesn't need to be a war. Like this should be a discussion. Um, let me see. The guys they bring on, a lot of them, not all, are either men that lean hard right politically without any pushback, or clueless or about what is going on in any community other than their own. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And these echo chambers that are created. um, I need to see that clip. This is the first time hearing about. Yeah, it's going to be on the Shade Room's Instagram page. That clip is going to be on the Shade Room's Insta is going to be in the Instagram page of the Shade Room. And so like they have it like, I don't know how to describe it in Instagram, but it's where you have one clip and then it's like six different or a couple of different, and you can scroll through it. Yeah, that's where it is. Um, tell black men to be truth teller. Welcome. Tell black men to stop being so thirsty for white women and literally propping up and praising every other group of women above their own. Black men have been disloyal to black women for years. Listen, we have to be willing to look in the mirror and say, because it's crazy for black men to say, oh, we've been targeted, we've been maligned, like everybody's out to get us, and then think that black women aren't catching hell too. If they're coming for us, they're coming for black women too. Yeah. So the same, we have to be able to realize that the same hatred, the same anti-black hatred that exists for black men exists for black women. And if you just take a look at the way Hollywood has operated, where they have created these standards of beauty and they've promoted certain standards of beauty. Where even if so, like we could say something to black women about their hair, right? And here's the thing: I have conversations with the woman that I personally know about hair. I've been having these conversations for decades. I mean, since the '90s, I've had conversations with women I'm involved with and women that I'm just friends with. But we've had candid conversations about black women's hair, about natural hair, weaves, and perms and stuff like that. But I'm gonna have respectful discussions with the women in my life, because that's where that conversation takes place. Like instead of just having, and if you can have a respectful discussion online, but you have to make sure you're talking to black women, not just about black women. So if you're in if your audience is all men and then you're talking about this, what are you doing? But if you've got, like, if you'll see these panels, they'll have panels, and that's where a discussion can better be had. That's a better place for a discussion than just a channel where I'm just going to talk about black women, knowing that there's no black women on the on my show. Um, Black women are now fed up. Yeah, and I get it, because what I try to do is I try to be empathetic. I try to see, okay, so where are they coming from? Because where are the sisters coming from? The sisters the sisters have suffered just like we have. The sisters have been targeted. They've been told that they're not good enough. And like I was just talking about with Hollywood, when it comes to like natural hair, Hollywood has literally told black women who wear their natural hair, you got to get rid of that or we're not going to give you roles. They've literally said that. You can see that there's certain black actresses who were rocking natural hair who suddenly get the perm, and then suddenly they start getting roles now. It's like you can tell that the Hollywood is literally telling them, and some actresses have come forward and said, listen, they're literally saying, if you want this role, you can't wear your natural hair. We don't like that look. Communication is lost these days because no one wants to listen to other viewpoints or be proven wrong on everything, on anything. I mean, yeah, it's but here's and it doesn't make sense because like it doesn't to me to have a conversation to have a conversation and to learn something. Like, how would I know exactly what a black woman is going through? I'm not a black woman. I can have some idea, but unless I talk to a black woman and listen to her, I won't know. But I've got to be willing to listen. But there are dudes that will sit here and act like, "Oh yeah, I know," and I like how? How do you know? How would you know what exactly what a black woman is feeling if you're not listening to her? There's a war on black couples. Yancey, they want blacks to partner with every other race except their own black people. If we can't get them out of America, we'll breed them out. Like there is so many methods I'm watching, so many methods being used to create chaos within the black community, and it's crazy that it's happening whenever there's a potential for black advancement. That all of these tricks start coming up again, but like it's not even the first time. This keeps happening, and then I'm looking at these pages that are promoting this stuff, and their numbers are just like crazy. Like there's if you look at these militant divestors, look at their numbers. Their numbers are like in the tens of thousands of views. It's like, who's watching this garbage? Really, who's watching this garbage? Because I'm starting to think that there's somebody either artificially inflating these views, or they're like there's anti-black organizations manipulating to make sure that these get more reach. Um, Truth teller, especially the more successful ones in the media, most of them are married out to white or other non-black women. By black men thirsting after white women, they are propping up white supremacy. And I look at Kanye. Look at what Kanye is going through right now. Kanye will talk about certain stuff on a pro-black, from a pro-black perspective, but then I look at what Kanye does in his dating life, and I'm like, Kanye, like I'm trying to understand the disconnect. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, Kanye, like you're catching hell right now. Like I don't know if Kanye realizes it, but he's catching hell right now because of like I don't know if he thinks that he can get involved. Like if he thinks that he can get involved with a white woman, divorce the white woman, and like still be and maintain like some favor in that situation. Like, do you not know where you are? Did you really not see where this was going to go? Did you really not see where the system was going to the power and the favor of the system was going to fall when you got divorced from your white wife? Did you not see this coming? Like, did you? I just don't understand it. But there are many dudes that will say just wildly crazy stuff about black women and after thirsting and lusting after white women. Let's see. Oh yeah, man, how bonnets or certain hairstyles suddenly became the trend when it's on the fair skin. The Here's the perfect example. Big butts. For the growing up in the 80s, 90s, the mainstream big butts was, oh, that's listen. And if you don't understand this, listen to the lyrics of not the lyrics, listen to the opening of Baby Got Back. The opening of Baby Got Back outlines that. Like that, Sir Mix-a-Lot didn't just make a like the opening of Baby Got Back perfectly encapsulates how the media and how the mainstream pushed a certain standard of beauty. If you listen to that, the opening of Baby Got Back is two white women talking about a black woman's butt and how it's her butt's so big, like, and they're like, oh, that's disgusting. And then come to 2000, J Lo comes on the scene, so suddenly big butts are nice. Kim Kardashian comes on the scene, big butts are good. What? I remember. I remember when the media pretended that big butts were not were unattractive. But when white women had big butts, now all of a sudden, okay, yeah, it's in. Wow, that was crazy. Um, if you worship the white man's daughter, then you are also refactor worshiping him and propping him up. I like the what Bill Burr said. Bill Burr got on Saturday Night Live. He did an opening, and he pissed a lot of people off with that opening because he talked about how um, he's like, yeah, us straight white men, we're catching hell for all the stuff we did, and yeah, listen, that's understandable, but it's amazing how these white women are just trying to act like they weren't right there with us. He's like, we were doing, you were the ones sending us out to do this nonsense. When Bill Burr pissed a lot of people off with that skit. He really pissed a lot of people off with that. Rocket Man, Rocky. Hi, Aaron. Good to see you. Thanks. Welcome to the stream. Um, Look at how world star hip hop and even the Shade Room started to gain popularity. Oh, so that actually reminds me of a part of the discussion we didn't talk about with the standards of beauty, because they were using rap videos to promote these other standards of beauty, these Eurocentric standards of beauty, because they would get these rappers and then they would actually cast all of the women, all of the models in these videos would be either non-black or very light-skinned woman to play the love interest. Like they were literally trying to program, and some people were calling them out. Like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? Nope, no one is creating it. We are choosing it. Again, black men have consistently disregarded black women, and black women have stuck by and fought black men to no avail. We are done. Okay, truth teller. Do you think? Do you think that this applies to all black men or some black men? Because I'm seeing a lot. So let's take a. So you can there's black men that we can point to that have, like, they will consistently, anything that's not black, they will be chase it, all day, every day. But then you have somebody like a LeBron James, happily married, black woman. You will have a Jay-Z and a Beyonce. You will have you'll have you'll have other individuals who are prominent individuals, who are successful individuals, who have chosen, who are showing examples of black love working and black. Okay, truth teller. Look at Byron Allen, a black billionaire with a little ex escort. What I didn't know that about his wife. I didn't know that about his wife. But here's the thing. This is why when a Byron Allen starts talking that pro black stuff, you have to look at him with a side eye. It's like, wait a minute. If you're talking pro black, but you're not, but your closest relationship doesn't reflect that, I have to wonder if you're just saying stuff now to try to, you're just trying to capitalize on pro blackness because your your closest relationship is demonstrating something other than that. So in other words, here's the point. If people want to date interracially, that's their choice. If you want to date interracially and be a black leader, that's going to be an issue. If you're claiming that you're going to be a representative of black issues, of pro blackness, of building the black community, and your family isn't black, that's an issue. Like, that's an issue. Like, how are you going to say that I'm trying to build the black community, but your wife, the person that's closest to you, isn't black? Your children aren't black. Like, okay, you should not, like, don't listen. If you want to support whatever, but there's no way you should be able to take the there's no way you should be trying to take the lead, and there's no way we should accept you taking the lead. Um, so like, yeah, Byron Allen, I gotta wonder if he's just saying this stuff because okay, now I can use the black card, try to get black people on my side, but his closest relationship demonstrates something else. And I gotta look that because I didn't know her background. The Eurocentric norms. It's like the modern day brown paper bag test. Will and Jada. Yeah, yeah. I think this applies to most black men. Yeah, but LeBron was caught in the DMs of a white woman a couple of years back. Um, okay, so my question is, why do you think it applies to most black men? Because I'm seeing I'm seeing a lot of black relationships where around me in maybe the most prominent at the highest levels, but then again that to let us know something, because even if we look at it with like if you take a look at Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court justice, her husband is white, right? But then if you take a look at the picks, the pool that Biden was going to choose from, I looked through the pool and I was like, is that was that a necessary qualification? Because it was amazing how many of these women were married to white men, and I was like, it was almost as if that was a qualification in order for the establishment to accept them. So that's the question: Are these black men being are these black men representative of the majority of black men, or are these black men actually being chosen and elevated to certain positions because of the choices they're making by choosing white women? Is that like is that what they need to do, and is that what these powers that be are saying want to see in order to say, okay, we'll promote this person, we'll lift this person up to a higher level? Because that's what it seems like to me. It seems like the establishment, the mainstream picks certain black people based on certain things, and that's one of the things they like to look for. They like to look for black people that will turn their back on the black community in a heartbeat. That's one of the things they want to see. Um, in the 1990s, rap was hijacked and it became hip hop, and it was no longer telling a story, but it was degrading only black women and promoting violence. Rap was not violent, and it told a message. But my issue with rap, I don't have an issue with rap. My issue with the way rap was being promoted was that we didn't control the radio stations, we didn't control the record labels, we didn't control the studios, we didn't control the distribution. So outside groups got to choose what was promoted. So while I was listening to a bunch of conscious rap in the 90s, these cats wasn't getting promoted. I was listening to Mos Def. I was listening, and Lauryn Hill was just a phenomenon because of how great she was. But I was listening to the conscious cats rap, and they weren't getting promoted like that because they weren't talking about the message that the mainstream wanted to push. They didn't want to push black empowerment. Like, what? Are you crazy? No. Like, we're not trying to get. We don't want these we don't want these black people getting ideas. Like, let's just keep them drunk on lean. Let's just promote the stuff that keeps them doing uh non-productive stuff. That's what we want to do. We want to keep them as unproductive as possible. That's the goal. That's the objective. We're not trying to promote nothing positive for them. Um, yeah, the issue is that black women have consistently thought of the community while black men think individually about themselves. I gotta disagree because here's why I disagree. I know there are some black men who do that, but there are a lot of black men who I think are will fight for the community. I just think the way that we've been doing it hasn't been the most effective. So um, I think that, and that's what I think it is. We need better strategies, and that's my wheelhouse, and that's why I'm like behind the scenes. I'm working on a bunch of stuff, and I'll start revealing some more of it as in the coming weeks. But like strategy is key to the success and building the black community. But I gotta disagree with that because I can personally look around and see a lot of black men that are doing it, that are trying to do something, trying to fight for the community, um, and care about the community. Like I know plenty of black men that love black women and will fight for black women. Okay, in fact, yeah. Let me just tell this story while I'm here. So I'm on the chew train because I'm here in New York City. I'm on a chew train, and um, there's there's a guy. He's sitting down, black man, sitting down, and he's kind of. If you have you ever heard the term man spreading? So it means like his legs are kind of apart. So his legs are kind of apart, and so kind of like this, and so the there's a woman that sits down next to him, and there's a little space between them. But so her daughter is with her, and so the mother says to the black man, "Could you like give us some more space so that my daughter can sit down too?" And he goes, "Okay," and he closes his legs, and the mother moves over, and the daughter sits down. So the mother is right next to him. By the way, this is on Mother's Day. I know this is Mother's Day, and I remember that this is Mother's Day. This was like what 4 or 5 years ago, uh, and I remember this was Mother's Day because of something that said later on. Um, but so he goes and he closes his leg, and after he closes his legs and they both sit down, this black woman then proceeds to the mother, just like, and it was like she's like wearing pants or something like that. So but she's like spreads her legs out like as far as possible, and I'm like, wow, that was kind of rude. But he just he sits there for a minute, and then he goes, excuse me, and very politely he turns to her and says, um, could you please like give me a little space because you're like your legs are spread like pretty far apart. And then the daughter just goes off. She jumps up. She gets into his face. She's screaming, cursing at him. And you know what this brother does? He sits there and says, "Listen, just please get out of my face. Please stop." And then the mother gets up and she starts cursing at him too. And he stands up and then walks away. He walks away. But the daughter starts coming after him and she's still cursing at him. And at this point, I step in, and because the mother at first says, "Okay, calm down," tries to pull the daughter back, but then she pulls away from the mother and starts going at him, and he's backing up. He does not push her away, nothing. He's just like backing up. He does not want to get into an altercation with her. So I step in and I get in between them, and now I'm pulling her back, and she's still cursing at him and yelling. And so I managed to pull her back, and now she's just wild, and she's just so she walks away from me. I'm between him and her. He's standing there, not, and he's just keeping quiet now. She comes back forward, and she tries to rush past me. So I go to this side, and then she goes to this side and tries to get back this side. So now once again, I've got to try to pull her back, and she winds up getting walking up onto the seats, onto the train seats, because now people have now emptied all of the seats along this way have emptied, and people are all just standing in a crowd watching this all go on. She's wilding out. She is wilding out, and he's just staying back. And what I really respect about what this brother's doing is he refused to put his hands on her. He refused. I appreciate that. And so what I'm doing is I'm making it so that I can intervene, and so that he doesn't have to be, that he's not in, like, he's not getting attacked, and he can continue to leave his hands off her, because I don't want him to be in a position where if she now starts, swinging on him now, so I'm doing my best to try to just keep her away from him. But she jumps up onto the subway seats. She starts trying to run at him, and like, she at one point she's on the subway seats, and he's up against the door, the subway doors, and she kicks through the through the side, because like there's the handlebars. So she kicks through the handlebars, but he sees the kick coming and just dodges. And so now I won't let her get off the seat to get at him. But she's still wilding. She's anything she finds, she starts tossing it at him, and he just remains completely calm the entire time. Finally, the subway car stops at 149th and the concourse. No, 149th and Third Ave, and like, cops just happen to be at the station. So now the cops see everybody, like, everybody standing up, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on here?" They come rushing onto the train. I breeze. I bounce. But the point was, you had this black brother. I didn't know this black woman. You had this black brother that didn't know this black woman. And despite the fact that she kept coming after him, she was like, she was wilding out. He refused to put his hands on her. And I did what I could to help make sure that he wasn't even in that position. So I'm just keeping her away from him. I'm just blocking her. That's it. So that he never had to be in a position where he has to feel he has to defend himself. But he was refusing to put his hands on her, and that was, and I appreciate it. But like I'm saying, I've seen this kind of behavior from black men I know, black men I don't know, who want to protect black women, even in situations where a black woman could be in the wrong, because like she could be going through something, but like that's what it is. So I see the narrative of what's being pushed about how black men hate black women, and I can't co-sign that. Like, black men just abandon black women, black men aren't protecting black women. I've seen too many instances of black men demonstrating otherwise. I see it around me all the time. And so, yes, there are definitely some black men that are clowns, that are on some other stuff. But there are a lot of black men that care about black women, and it doesn't need to be just black women that they're messing with, because that's another narrative, that black men only see a black woman if he's having sex with her. And I've seen otherwise. I've seen black men actually care and try to protect black women, and not just try, but actually protect black women that they don't even know. I've seen this. I've witnessed this. I've done it. And so I can't go with this narrative. I can't accept this narrative as being true, or being as widespread as some want to make it believe, more to make it seem. And I know if we look on social media, it seems like a much bigger problem than I believe it is. And that's why I believe that there's a lot of anti-black organizations behind the scenes. Like, I believe there's avatars out here they'll have a black face, and either they're a bot or they're a non-black person that is intentionally trying to create and foster division. Like, there's no doubt that that's a lot of that is going on. Um, he's exploiting black art to event stuff like. So I'm guessing, yeah, this has got to be talking about Byron Allen, and yeah, um, because most black men are not challenging the toxicity that the so-called few spewing. But even in the space, I see black men challenging, and I'm following black YouTubers that may not be as big as a Fresh and Fit, but they're like actively countering that nonsense that Fresh and Fit talk, actively, actively talking against it, and actively try uh, promoting content that's showing respect for black women and yeah, and for black relationships. Um, let me see. But has Byron Allen been out here there being pro-black though? I mean, he used for racial discrimination, but has he really been out here trying to see change? I don't think he has. And just that on itself, for him, like him talking about his company is black owned, his wife is his partner. So if his wife is white, it's only partially black owned, right? Like because they own it together. It's their property. And so like that's what it's hard to if you're talking about black owned but your wife is white, then is that really black owned? Like nah, it's not. um Here's the thing: most black men don't choose unambiguous 80% black women. The richer black men tend to prefer light, bright, and near white. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not a thing. I understand. I don't agree with it, but I know why it's a thing. And it goes back to what we were talking about. It goes back to this programming. So you've got this media that is pushing standards of beauty. The media is saying this is what's beautiful. And so you have a maximum 100, right? The maximum 100, they say the 100 most beautiful women. And what do they show you? They show you 95 they show you 97 white women. Okay, correction. They'll show you 95 white women, two Asian women, and then they'll show you Holly Berry, um, Holly Berry, Mariah Carey, and Alicia Keys. That's the maximum top 100. Like this was the programming that was going on where in order to be beautiful, a black woman had to be half white. Like that's literally what they were pushing. And so part of that comes down to like there's a reason for it, but that programming needs to be countered. So we need to have our own media. We need to have media that's willing to show and that's not centered around Eurocentric standards of beauty. If we have our own media that's not centered on Eurocentric standards of beauty, that's showing Afrocentric standards of beauty, that's showing where you can have black dark skinned women being celebrated for their beauty, black dark skinned women with natural hair being celebrated for their beauty, like that would be amazing. That will be amazing. But that's why we need control of our own media and why the position we're in is in large part due to a failure in strategy. There's been a failure in strategy in what we were doing. And so the civil rights movement, how the civil rights movement was co-opted and it went from fighting where the powers that be manipulated the fight into, oh, you what you're really fighting for is integration, when that really wasn't what the fight was about or should have been about. But once they managed to do that, now they got the black community in position where they control all we see and hear. So whether it's media, in movies, in magazines, music, who's controlling this? We're not controlling it. We may be, we may have black stars, black faces out there, but they get to choose who those black faces are, and they get to craft the narrative of what's beautiful, what's not. And so that's why we really need our own um, our own media. Very true. It's very obvious when they see compromised black people. KRS-One, yes, KRS-One has definitely been one of my favorite rappers throughout the years. Absolutely. In fact, I remember watching the KRS-One and Big Daddy Kane versus last year. Oh man, that was amazing. That was. And by the way, I was rooting for KRS-One because of the whole conscious thing, but I had forgotten how good Big Daddy Kane was. Like, and it's crazy because I was like, man, Big Daddy Kane was a beast. Correction, Big Daddy Kane is a beast. Big Daddy Kane is a beast. And if you haven't seen that versus, check it out. Big Daddy Kane KRS-One versus was that was on point. That was on point. That was one of the best verses of the year, for real. Um, the thing is, if black men are thinking marrying white is affording them more opportunity, is them being lazy and surrendering to white power. Listen, you have no argument with me. No argument from me with that. No argument. Like if somebody's requiring me to turn my back on my community in order for them to accept me, number one, that person is not my friend. That person does not respect me. That person does not have my best interest at heart. I know this, but there's a lot of people that are willing to sacrifice principle for profit. And like, yeah, like there are dudes that there's no question that there are dudes like this. No question. And you have, but at the same point, like that's why we have to elevate and protect those who are fighting the good fight, those that are standing on principle, those that are promoting certain values and that refuse to be bought and controlled. Black men need to become brave and to build their own industries and prop up their own woman as a standard. And that goes back to why I was talking about black the integration, because integration should have never been the goal. Independence was the goal. Independence should have always been the goal. Black independence is better than integration. Independence over integration all day, every day. Black independence is what we need to be focused on. Black independence. That's it. Not integration, because we need to be in control of our own. Like after seeing what we've seen, witnessing what we've witnessed for hundreds of years, experiencing what we've experienced for hundreds of years, there's no way that we can justify just being willing to let's see what happens. Like, no, we've seen what happens over and over again. Like there comes a point where it's like, okay, it's time to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt and protect ourselves. Like it's a matter of we need to be doing what we need to be doing to protect ourselves, to protect our community, because anti-blackness is real, and it's a global phenomenon. Anti-blackness is a global phenomenon, and we have got to protect the communities. So, absolutely, black men need to be building. We need to be building our own industries. We need to be protecting black women, propping up black women, and celebrating an Afrocentric standard of beauty. Um, where are black men fighting for the community? I haven't seen them. Um, I know of. I've seen lots of black men that are involved in activism. Um, I've seen a lot of black men doing various types of things. And like I say, it comes down to strategies. Because there's a lot of black men that are doing things to try to build wealth that may not seem, that people think, oh yeah, that's bad. They shouldn't be doing it that way. I understand why they're doing it. And I know that because I know a bunch of dudes that have gone that route, And I do understand the flaw in the strategy, but I also understand why they're doing it that way. I understand why dudes decide, okay, I'm gonna go out and hustle. I understand it. I understand it exactly. Because if you look at the system as it exists, if we look at this system, if I do everything the system tells me to do the way they tell me to do it, if I go to school, I go from kindergarten to 12th grade, 13 years. I spend 13 years in their school system. And then what? I graduate, and what can I do? If I just go through their school system, graduate, what am I qualified to do? I'm qualified to work at a fast food restaurant. I'm qualified to work at Walgreens or Walmart or Target. That's what I'm qualified to do. I'm qualified to get a minimum wage job and toil for what, 47 years? For 47 years, and then pray for a pension. That's what I'm qualified to do. But okay, what if I decide to do something different? I decide, okay, I'm going to go for 13 years. I'm going to do it their way. And then I get out of high school and I'm going to go to college. So I'm going to go to college and get a 4-year degree. I get a 4-year degree. And then after spending tens of thousands of dollars to get that 4-year degree, I now work for 43 years toiling and then have to pray for a pension. The way the system is set up is not for us to succeed and not for us to thrive. It's to keep us at a very narrow, within a very narrow space where we are completely controllable and completely dependent upon the system. That's the objective. So there are dudes that look at this and say that's a dead end route. They choose another route, which in the short run is much more lucrative. However, the system has put rules in place that they can make sure that that's a dead end route too, because they don't want us to succeed. So when they see dudes hustling, you know, on the street, okay, we're gonna shut them down. But there's a lot of cats that are out there doing that, and they're doing it with an objective in mind. And there's some dudes who manage to do it well enough to get their money, flip their money, and then turn their money legal. So I get what they're doing. I'm not advocating for necessarily for that, but I know that there are other ways, and these are the ways that we need. These are the other paths that we need to be focusing on, and and putting young brothers on, putting young sisters on, so that we're not at the mercy of the system. Um, Truth telling, no, that's definitely a shared issue, not just specific to the men. Yeah, we listen. And this is what we have to do. We have to be willing to be real with ourselves and real with each other. We've got a lot of work to do. I mean, it feels great to sit back and say, "Oh, black people, we've come so far. We got everything on the board. We're great. We've overcome this and that." Listen, we've overcome, but we've got knocked back down. Now the objective is to get back up, but we've got to start. We've got to be. We can't just be reactionary. We have to be able to pick ourselves back up and then protect ourselves from getting knocked down again. We can't keep falling for the same tricks. We can't keep letting the same things, the same cycles repeat over and over again. We can't keep trusting the same people who are showing us, demonstrating to us, they don't like us. They hate us. We can't keep trusting the same people who are showing us they can't be trusted. Um, well, it's like when BET changed into Urban MTV Network, music is being sold to those in suburbia and no longer reflects realism and struggle. So now that's an interesting thing, because I remember when Bob Johnson sold BET and they got rid of the news. That's when, because I think Tavis Smiley was on BET then, and they got rid of the BET news. And then they just went off videos. And it was interesting what they would do, because at that time, BET and MTV were owned by the same company. Viacom owned BET and MTV. And it was funny how how this worked, because on and like I said, same company owned both stations. They showed there's one video that encapsulated a lot of how they were approaching things. So they go, uh, they have the video, beautiful. Snoop Dogg and Pharrell. So Snoop Dogg and Pharrell have this video, beautiful. And in this video, um, there's a scene with a couple of girls in thongs in Brazil, and they're walking away, big butts and thongs, and they're walking away. And on BET, they would blur that out. They would blur out the women's butts. On MTV, they would show the women's butts. So the thing was like, okay, we can show the sex, we can sell sex on MTV. But there's another scene in that video. There's a scene in there when Snoop starts throwing up signs, gang signs. They cut that scene out of MTV's video. They cut the scene with Snoop throwing up gang signs out of the MTV version, and they play it in the BET version. Same company owns both channels, but they alter the video that they show a different version of the video. They've made alterations to the video that they show on MTV, where they'll show sex, but they won't show, they'll edit out the gang signs. But on BET, they'll show the gang signs. Like that, I watched this and like, these people are on some nonsense. I was like it's crazy. But when you start to realize it, like, yo, this was like this is not accidental. This is none of this is accidental. They're doing this intentionally. Um NYC in the house. Truth tellers define fighting. Um I've seen things like this before in the subway. Once I've Oh yeah, it gets crazy in the New York City subways. Zoom out further. Okay. Listen, I'm seeing her on her nonsense is just garbage. But it's just it's so pervasive. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing like even this Nicki Minaj situation. I didn't watch her video, but apparently she did a video on this, and her headline is Nicki Minaj checks back black men. And well, so I'm almost I'm guaranteed. I'm not gonna watch this woman's video, but I'm guaranteed that what she didn't talk about how Nicki Minaj told black men that she loves them. Because I know I mentioned that Nicki Minaj said black men need love, but I think I may have forgot to tell the part where Nicki Minaj actually says black men I love you. Nicki Minaj says black men I love you. Like that was a powerful moment. And so seeing Nicki Minaj do that with her platform, letting black men know, like, I'm not on this nonsense. Like Nicki Minaj has made steps to end the gender war. Like this is a huge step because Nicki Minaj is way bigger than this whole divestiture crew, and and it's great. Like because there's hope. There's hope that we can counter that nonsense because I truly, like I said, I truly believe that's being controlled by outside forces to create division and to create chaos within the black community. Escaping the echo chamber. Good on you for doing that. We got to remember here in New York City, it would only look bad for him and not her. There have been times when men defend themselves and are seen as the aggressor, the villain. I know that. I know that. But I appreciated what he did. I appreciated him showing restraint. I really appreciated that. Um, Outliers. If black men are protecting women largely, then why are they making them baby mothers at a rate of 75%? Why do they have the lowest marriage rate of 34%? Okay, so you see, but this is a different topic. This is a different topic. This is so. we've got protection in the terms of like physical protection, um, collective protection, but then in terms of relationships, I think we need to be better at, and this is discussions we need to have. We need to be better at about improving our relationships with each other. But that's something that comes into better communication between black and women, between black men and women, and it comes into better knowledge of self, because it's hard to know what you want in a woman. So if I don't even know who I am, if I don't fully understand me, how can I accurately pick what I want in a woman? So I can think that I know what I if I'm not if I have never taken the time to analyze myself. I see a chick, she's pretty. I like her. We talk, we get along, and we get together, we date. I get her pregnant, but then we're not compatible. Now I don't want to stay in that. Like neither of us wants to stay in that relationship, but we have, neither of us wants to stay in that relationship as a couple, but we are connected by the child we had. So now we're going to keep having to deal with each other, but we're living apart. We're like, she starts, she finds somebody else, I find somebody else, and now she's a baby mama, right? And the point is that if we want to stop that, we need to be better at communicating. We need to be better at identifying what we want out of relationships, who we are. Because if we can't even identify who we are, if we don't even know who we are, how do I know who I'm going to be compatible with? We got to work on that. But I think that's a separate issue from the protection issue. But it is definitely a very important issue, truth teller. It's definitely an important issue in terms of improving the conditions of the black community. No doubt. I think it's a huge problem because explain the prevalence of the broken family. So broken families. Yeah. Once again, it's a lot of relationships today are happening not because of people really actually courting and finding somebody that they really want to spend the rest of their lives with. It's like they're finding somebody who's there, and these relationships of convenience. And you got to realize how much economics has to do with this. Economics has a huge deal to do with this, because if it's easier for two people as a couple to live together and to survive, then you're going to have a lot of relationships, especially in poorer communities, that are happening not out of love, not out of pure love, or not out of just love, but more so out of convenience, more so out of, okay, well, we're attracted to each other, and we laugh at each other's jokes sometime, and we can make, we're both working, so let's move in together. And so then it's not based on a firm foundation. And then when you get to a position where you find somebody who you're more compatible with, you'll wind up breaking up. Maybe you don't break up right away. Maybe somebody or both people wind up cheating on each other, find out, now there's hurt feelings, now things end badly, now they split up, now you have a broken family. See what I'm saying? So a lot, like, economics can't be ignored in this situation. And so that's one of the reasons why I disagree. In fact, there's another. Um, Let me see. Where is it? There's another. I'm gonna put it up now. Um, because it leads me to this last point. One of the last points I wanted to talk about. Um, Let me turn off my camera for a second. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this this post by Jamel Hill, she's talking about this um she's talking about this guy in this podcast who were talking about when once a woman is makes a certain amount of money, she's automatically disqualified herself. That's what he said in this clip that she says. And she's like, "Oh, why does it seem like there's so many um, of these podcasts that are belittling black women?" The interesting thing is that I've actually watched like good portion of that podcast, and that clip. While that may be that guy's opinion, there are two other brothers on the show who have a different a different somewhat of a different outlook. Like one of the brothers who talks about that, he talks about how he dated a woman who's like wealthy, and he got to a position where for his birthday, she winds up taking him on vacation. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this for your birthday," and at one point she winds up metaphorically basically throwing the money she spent in the trip in his face, basically like, "Oh, well, you're here on your phone," because like he's doing some work on his phone, and she's like, "So like, why are you here on your phone? I paid for all of this stuff." And he said he felt emasculated by that. And like that's an issue that black men and black women need to be able to have a discussion with each other, like, because number one, I think she was wrong to do that. She was wrong to try to use the money, because if you're doing this for him as a gift, because number one, he's talking about he's not broke. He has his own money, but as a gift for his birthday, she wanted to do something nice for him. Then it makes no, like, it's not, you're not doing something nice for him if you then try to throw it in his face like, well, look what I'm doing for you. Like, what do you either like do it without expecting, okay, so now you're going to do everything I want you to do. Like that, what she did, she was wrong in that. But by her reacting that way, by her treating him this way, now, and I think his reaction isn't necessarily right. So his reaction to her, I understand if that sours his relationship with her. I get it. But I think for him to now say that's why he wouldn't date another woman who is at that level, I think that's wrong. That's a mistake on his part. I think that's an error on his part, because the problem with her wasn't that she had the money. The problem was that she wasn't giving it freely. She wasn't doing something just out of the kindness of her own heart. She wasn't just doing it because she just wanted to do something nice for him. She was using it as leverage. She was using it as a power play. And that was the problem, not the fact that she was a woman that had money. But the fact that you will have um, the fact that you will have the fact that you have black men that feel that, okay, if a woman has a certain amount of money, um, that's a bad thing. That here's why that makes no sense. It makes no sense because basically what that would require black women to be, that would require black women to be completely at the mercy of men, whatever whoever that man is. Because if I expect black women not to be able to provide for themselves, then what does that mean a black woman needs to do? That means she needs to get a man to survive, right? So if I'm going to say, okay, black woman's job is just to focus on being beautiful, being submissive, being feminine, if that's her job, if that's her only job, and then she's got to find a man, I can't get mad if that's her job. I can't get mad at that black woman for then saying, okay, I'm going to look for the richest man so that he can take care of me. I'm going to look for the man that has the resources to take care of me. Because if I'm telling her her job is to find a good man, then to survive, like I'm putting her, I'm backing her into a corner where that's the only thing. Because how do I get more money? How do I get to a situation where I'm living comfortably? I'm looking for a good job. I'm not gonna look for a job that's paying me less. If you've got a job over here where I can make more money, where I can get this job, do this job, and still make more money and live comfortably. So if why would I expect this black woman who I'm saying she shouldn't be focused on being able to provide for herself? How could I criticize her? How can I tell her it's her job to rely on the man to provide for her and then criticize her when she looks for the man that can provide her the most? See, so economics is important, but how this economics needs to work is black men and black women. We all, because like we got to realize, all things being equal, all things ain't equal. I'm gonna say it again. All things being equal, all things ain't equal. We're not in a normal situation. Black men and black women are not in a normal situation. We're in a hostile environment. We are in a hostile environment where people are actively, where a society, where uh, uh, there's an active, there's an active anti-black sentiment, active anti-black agendas being implemented, being perpetuated to stop us from succeeding, to stop us from growing, to stop us from thriving. Therefore, all things being equal, all things ain't equal. We can't do what everybody else does. We can't do just the bare minimum. We are under attack. We are at war, and we need to respond accordingly. So, economics being the discussion right now, black men and black women need to be striving for economic independence. That's the only way. Like, we can't just sit here and think that, okay, black women, you just sit back and do nothing. Because, among other things, trust and believe, they will target black men. They like if it's only black men that are doing this, they will find ways to target black men. They will. They've done it before. They will do it again. Um, I was on Fulton by the seaport, and his brother was going crazy. I had to stop people from attacking him. And yeah, I mean, yeah, um, you'll have people that will wild out, and like, because if you're in New York, you know there's a lot of mentally ill people who are out on the streets. Divine, you know, you encounter them on subways and the streets, and they'll have episodes out there, and yeah, um, that's an incredibly, yeah, it is. Because I see a lot of people pretending. I see. I'm not gonna say pretending. That was the wrong word. I see a lot of people proposing that the okay, the black family, building a black family, everything's better. That's not true. That and it's overly simplistic because there's so much more at stake. There's so much more that needs to be taken into consideration, and it ignores how much of what has happened to black people has come from external sources. Because black wealth existed. Black wealth has been actively and intentionally attacked by the system. And that has nothing to do with the black family. But the fact that poverty and poor economic conditions affect building strong family, because the stress of not having money, that definitely affects relationships. Which is why Jay chose Beyonce, and that's why those dark-skinned, unambiguous black women judges are married to white men, because most likely the black men didn't want them. You're making that's a huge assumption to make. That's a huge assumption to make. That black men didn't want them. That's a huge assumption to make. Yeah, but even when we do have our own media, we still push light, bright, and damn near white. BT, but BT isn't black owned. BT is owned by Viacom, and so and even BNC, the Black News Channel, that's owned by non-black people. See, and we gotta catch up. We gotta realize there's a lot of people that are willing to capitalize on our faces, but they want to control our media. They want to sell us. They want to control and sell us our own media. Physically, I prefer dark skinned women, but how many of them have run over to the white man? A black woman attacked me for complimenting her beautiful dark skin. How did you compliment her dark skin? Did you say you're pretty for a dark skinned girl? Because if you said that, I see where she was coming from. So I got to ask the question: how did you compliment her dark skin? I got to ask that question because somebody you may not have done that. You may not have done that, but I've seen people say that and think it is a compliment. That may not have been you, but I've seen people say you're pretty for a dark skinned girl and think that was a compliment. I'm not saying you did that. um, Truth tell, yeah, that. Thank you. Yeah, it's not black owned. BT is not black owned. Black people need to first emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, see the beauty in ourselves. Mixed women have now become the primary representative, black women in mainstream media, and black men. And it does come to deprogramming. It does come back down to deprogramming, being able to recognize why we look at the world a certain way and being able to counter that these outside influences. Um, Yes, I agree with you there. Black independence over integration. Yes, self determination is the goal. Everywhere. You don't have to hear about it to be for it to be going on. And for those black men fighting for the cause, what does their partner look like? Remember, there were reports of black men in the civil rights movement sleeping white. Well, listen, Martin Luther King was messing with white women, and he had a black wife. But now I wanted to take a look at why Martin Luther King was messing with white women. Remember where he was educated. Because Dr. Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, he went to these white colleges. He went to these colleges. He was around this, and that was what, no doubt, helped um, to 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 influence that behavior. Once again, this is why we need independence. This is why we need our own institutions. Uh, the system is set up against blacks. Presently, they are talking about critical race theory. Well, most everything we've been taught about blacks in America is critical race. You're coming at this with critique about what you see black men doing and not doing. It's very irritating to have to been working for. I mean, and so this is what I'm gonna say, because we have to be careful. Just because I see something doesn't mean that's what's happening everywhere, right? I mean, my perception is limited. I'm not omniscient. I'm not seeing everything that's happening all over the country right now. So using anecdotal evidence isn't can't be the standard. It can't be. We have to be able to realize that, okay, there's more stuff. There's stuff happening all outside of outside of our circles that um, that can change our perception, and that can show that the things that we think are going on and are more prevalent are not necessarily as prevalent as we think they are. Around, I see a bunch of black females talking about black men don't do anything or don't do enough. Yeah, I mean, listen, we can't get caught up in these generalizations. That's the problem. That's what started this gender war. To end the gender war, we need to stop talking about what black women aren't doing, what black men aren't doing, and start talking to each other. Stop talking about each other, start talking to each other. Most everything we've been taught in black about black history are lies. In other words, his story, not his story. Yeah, it's stories. That's what it is. I'm speaking of the collective. I consistently see black women working hard, pushing and propping up the community, supporting black men, but I don't see the same fervor from black men. Sorry. Like I said, this is why we need to have these discussions. I don't know what black males. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strong black men that are fighting, that are doing things. Um, okay, so I'm so over blaming the white man. White people are going to do what they do. We can't let that stop us. Okay, truth teller. Now you have to acknowledge. I'm not. Listen. There's. Let's just take a look at this. Schools. Who teaches our kids? Who teaches our kids? Because we send our kids to public schools, right? So who's teaching our kids? If we're sending our kids to schools that we don't control, who's teaching our kids? That's that's one of the core elements of why we're at where we're at. That's one of the core elements. So if we're supporting the system, and black men, I see a lot of black men and black women providing too much support for a system that is against us. So like just saying that, um just claiming to fight for black people, if you're still supporting this system, that's a problem. The system is not supporting us. um yeah, we definitely need an agenda. Yeah, but without money, the family structure can't even, you don't have the luxury. Okay, so let's take a look at black relationships during slavery. Like when black people couldn't even choose their partners, when they were literally being put together by slave owners, um how could how can black relationships be strong? Like that's a problem. So like we need more power. So that's why this approach of coming at it from just this one line approach of what do you call it? Oh yes, build the black family. That's over. That's missing so much of the bigger picture, because it's not even talking about how we got where we are. But listen, black fathers, fatherless is chronic. Black fathers, they did a study and they showed that black fathers are more involved in their children's lives than any other um, race. That's what the study showed. So this, as the same way as we're talking about, like just not just like we can't just buy into these stereotypes, because the same way we're talking about how they're using media to promote a certain image of what's beautiful, they're also using media to promote a certain image of what black people are or aren't doing. And these are stereotypes that aren't rooted in reality. I don't believe that white people are thinking of us that hard to where they have an agenda, organized agenda to destroy black community in 2022. I don't believe it. Okay, so truth teller, I have to ask you this question. What happened to Black Wall Street? I got to ask you, what happened to Black Wall Street? Because if because it sounds to me like you're not aware of the history of what happened of I have to ask you what happened to Black Wall Street, because I want to know how familiar you are with the history. Because a lot of times the people I hear talking about, oh, the black family needs to be rebuilt, they don't know any of the history of what actually happened to the black community. Because after Reconstruction, the black community made tremendous strides. The black community was thriving. What happened to Black Wall Street? I gotta ask the question. If you don't know, okay, let me tell you what happened to Black Wall Street. Let me tell you what happened to Black. This is what happened to Black Wall Street. The first time, the first time, what happened to Black Wall Street was white folks attacked. White folks saw a black community prospering, that a black community that was independent of it, that was prosperous, where black people weren't just surviving, black people were thriving, and it pissed them off. It pissed them off. And what did they do? They attacked. They used their resources and they used the pretext to wage war on this community. They burned down houses, they burnt down businesses, they firebombed from the air. They firebombed this community from the air. This was in 1921. They actually went to the airfield, got their planes, and started bombing the community from the air. They slaughtered a bunch of black people. Then they rounded up the survivors, put them in internment camps, put them in an internment camp, and then passed laws that they couldn't rebuild. But guess what the black people did? Black people rebuilt anyway. They would rebuild under the cover of night. Under the cover of night, they rebuild, and then once the light came out, they dispersed. Black people rebuilt Black Wall Street even after the attack, and they continued to thrive. But that's not where it ended. They weren't finished. They weren't finished because then they came up with a different tactic. Then we get to the 1960s, and you know what they did to stop Black Wall Street? Because, and people will talk about this, like Pete Buttigieg had made a statement about how highways are racist, and a bunch of people on the right that have no knowledge of history, you know, the I think it was like YAF, Young American Foundation or whatever, they were laughing and stupid, that makes no sense. It's reality. Because here's what happened. They used urban renewal and eminent domain as an excuse to take over black wealth, these properties, this land where these black communities were thriving. The federal government stepped in, took over this property, and then built highways over it. That's how they destroyed Black Wall Street for good. The second time, they destroyed Black Wall Street for good by building highways over it. They took the land, the government took the land and then built highways through it. So now, while you have people who say, "Oh, well, they targeted both poor and poor white communities and poor black communities." No, they targeted poor white communities in some instances, but they targeted wealthy black communities. When they went after black communities, they went after wealthy black communities. They destroyed black wealth. That was their objective. That's what they did. And that's why it's so important to know history. Because so when I talked about the Mafa, because if we don't know what actually happened, we don't know how we actually got here. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, slavery was over 100 years ago," and the war on blackness, the Mafa, didn't end there. They kept going. But if we're not doing the work, if we don't do the research, if we don't know the history, we don't know what actually happened. And there's so many people that don't. I mean, so many of us that didn't know about Black Wall Street to begin with. And then we find out about the Tulsa Massacre, and we think that's where it ended. No, that's not where it ended. They rebuilt Black Wall Street. They rebuilt Black Wall Street. And then they used urban renewal. They built highways over it to stop black wealth, to destroy black wealth. Robert Moses, this was literally an architect, a planner, and he planned all over the country. He planned these designs to create to section off black people. Like they literally made used infrastructure to make areas poorer, to build highways through certain areas, to cut off certain areas from certain resources. They literally did this. This was not by accident. They did it on purpose. They have think tanks designed for this purpose. This is not a figment of my imagination. There are documented accounts of this happening. Why do you think they stopped today? You think anti-black hatred just went away? When? When? When did they decide, oh, okay, we're done hating black people now. We've hated them for hundreds of years, but now, you know what? They are kind of cool. When? Um, Black wealth existed when we were segregated and it disappeared. And that was like the whole co-opt, the whole manner in which the civil rights movement was co-opted. Once again, not accidental. Not accidental. Because instead of fighting for black independence, they shifted the message. They put certain people in the position to shift the message to, oh no, we just want to be a part of your society. We don't want independence. We want integration. We just want to be accepted by you. We just want you to like us. That is one of the most that is one of the worst things to happen to the black community. That as opposed to fighting for independence. Nope, BSC is not black owned. Um, Complimented the beauty. Okay, that seems like a complimenting her. You say you want to do a portrait of her. Okay, maybe. I mean, hey, when it comes to those sorts of things, at any given time, someone could be going through something, and just not and it not land the way you expect it to, the way you want it to. But hey, the way I would always carry it is, I'm sorry if I offended you, and keep it cordial. And maybe you will meet her again, and you know, y'all can have further conversation. I think we are our biggest problem. We are perpetuating white supremacy by the choices we've made in recent years and continue to make. Blaming the white man seems like a deflection to me. Okay, so now truth tell, I'm looking to see. Um, okay, so yeah, here it is. White folks burnt it down, and then they rebuilt, and then they rebuilt Black Wall Street, and then they had another tactic. So your assertion that, oh, they're not sitting around, no, they literally are. Like you have people like Robert Moses, like you have organizations that exist where they will actually be devising ways. Like I mean, I don't know how you can look at the past several hundreds of years and think that there's not groups that are devoted to waging war against black people. Like hundreds of years, they literally created laws. They created laws to stop black people from succeeding. They created laws to create a white middle class and to make sure that they can exclude black people from that. This is history. This actually happened. What is in our power to change? What choices can we make to better our lives in spite of the challenges we face in the system? Okay, right. I'm all about solutions. But listen, saying, "Oh, we need black families." That's not a solution. That's a slogan. Like that's not even like that's not a solution. That doesn't change building wealth, that doesn't change education, that doesn't change a whole host of it. That ignores so many other situations that are in existence that doesn't address. So this because I look at like people like Brandon Tatum, and they'll come up with that narrative. Oh yeah, we need to Larry Elder. Larry Elder and Larry Elder's a clown. Larry Elder's an absolute clown. Oh yes, we need to rebuild the black family. Oh yeah, and Candace Owens will talk about the um, not having about the welfare. It's like, wait a minute. If welfare destroyed the black community, why didn't welfare? Why, there are more white people on welfare than black people. Why didn't welfare destroy the white community? Like you see, like there's lapses of logic when you actually think about these trite, you know, little talking points that people are using and are saying that are solutions because they don't want to actually address the problems. So they want to they when it comes to black people, it's you're the problem, right? That's what the message is. When you're talking to poor white people, it's no, it's immigrants are the problem. It's critical race theory is the problem. It's shipping out your jobs is the problem. When it's poor white people are never the problem. But poor black people, we're our own problem. Here's what I say. I'm not even here to say that black people we're our own problem. I'm here to say that we are our own solution. We have to be because we can't depend on anybody else for a solution. But black families saying, "Oh, we need black families," that's not a solution. That's not. That's not. It's too like it's trite and it ignores so many other things that have to be taken into consideration. That's not a plan. Like saying we need more black families isn't a plan. We need an actual plan. The people right now talking about CRT have no idea what it means, what it represents. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, the people that are just making up stuff for what CRT is. I mean, yeah, the whole point is the whole point of this discussion is how Nicki Minaj has done something so positive in attempts to end in taking steps to end the gender war, and I'm all for it. Like that's why I'm doing this live stream because I love to see it. I love to see it because she criticized a couple of clowns, Fresh and Fit, and their little circle. That's who she criticized. She spoke well of Kevin Samuels, and then she told black and she spoke well of Kevin Samuels. She talked about how black women and she said to black men, it's not even about not having any discussions with black women, not having any critiques or criticism for black women. She's like with a place for it. Going up to random women we don't know, going up to some random woman that black woman that I don't know, telling her that she needs to do this and that. What? But she says, tell your woman that behind closed doors. Yes, that only makes sense. But this is what we have to be doing. The gender war doesn't end unless we end it, unless we start listening to each other and actually communicating with each other. We're not children. We can have productive discussions with each other, and whether it's in the confines of the relationship, or if even if we're having more discussions or like panels, but make sure that you have a representation of black men and black women having discussions together where we can actually start having some productive discussions and listening to each other, because it's not about winning an argument, it's about understanding where we're coming from, understanding where the other parties are coming from, where black men understanding where black women are coming from, black women understanding where black men coming from, us understanding each other. um Truth teller, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? You can see that Texas leads the way in disinformation of American history, especially when it comes to Black history, and there isn't a backlash about it. Yeah, yeah, very one dimensional. Um, didn't have my father in my life, but I knew many others that did. At the end of the day, what happened to me doesn't mean that it happened to everyone. I mean, so I had, when I was younger, my parents were together. When I my teenage years, my parents wound up getting divorced. But I had both parents growing up, and just because you have a father and a mother in your life doesn't mean it's going to be a healthy situation. Doesn't mean that. It might be, but and that's why I say it's really trite to just say, "Oh, you need black families." Because what if that black family, that mother and that father, are toxic together? And then you have toxic children growing up. Children growing up in an environment where two people don't like or love each other, and it could just be an unloving and unnurturing environment. Like that's so trite. Crime rates. Where are you getting this information from? Crime rates. You're getting it from this. We just started talking about disinformation from the system, from the mainstream, and you're getting these crime rates from the same sources, but also from the fact that crime. What is crime? Crime is what they say it is. Crime is what they choose to invest, because they have the choice to choose what communities they go in and actually start investigating crime and arresting people for crime. They have that choice, and they choose to stay in our communities and investigate crime. Until recently, I didn't know a lot of lakes in this country were formed over black towns. Yes, yes, yeah, that's crazy. Like Central Park. Central Park was a black settlement, and they just raised over it. Yeah. I mean, like, listen, if you're talking about black families, the black family is the core to everything. I mean, then it does stand to reason that that whole independent woman thing would, you might be opposed to it. Um, keep hearing are excuses for black men's. I'm not hearing what we were planning to do now, because that means you're not listening. If you're not hearing it, you're not listening, truth teller. Because that's what I've been talking about. I've I'm talking about it right now. Like, I'm talking about it right now. I'm talking about it right now. If you're not hearing, that means you're not listening. I'm talking about it right now. Like, we communicating with each other is one of the keys to building back trust between black men and black women. That's one of the things. So we need to end the accusations, end the um, just the critiques, and start communicating with each other to the point of listening to each other. Okay, black men, listen. What do you want from black men? Like, ask the question and then listen for the answer. Black woman, what do you want? Black woman asks black men, what do you want from black women? And then listen. But if we're not communicating with each other, if we're not listening to each other, we get nowhere. There were a bunch of toasters. Absolutely, absolutely. Virginia, what was that called? Jackson Ward. Yeah, a bunch of them. One thing that irks me is they choose those with the skin tone that will promote narrative that struggles in the past and current is fake news. Yeah, exactly. Um, and I find these, like, Like I told the Tatums of the world, like Brandon Tatum literally got on a YouTube video and said Black Wall Street didn't happen. Like just absolute idiot, absolute idiot. Um, we are clearly comfortable with it because we have not done enough to fight against it. Um, if you're gonna say, are you comfortable with it? Because I know I'm not comfortable with it. I know the people in my circle ain't comfortable with it. So I don't know who you're like. You may be talking about a specific group of people, but I know I'm not in that we. I'm not in the we that is comfortable with anti-black hatred. Like that's just take a look at just take a look at my videos. Take a look at the stuff I talk about, the stuff I like. I'm absolutely not comfortable with anti-black hatred. Redlining was and is still a thing. Yep. The house of praise, lower like yeah, like we got to, and that's why I think the key is the education. We have got to eh, become independent from the public educational school system. We can't let them have like letting the system that has waged war upon us have custody and control over our children is a horrible, horrible, horrible idea. Horrible. Let's talk about the war on drugs. When it was yes, yes. When it was black and brown people was lock them up. And funny thing is, you know who that person was? Joe Biden. Joe Biden was on the Senate floor talking that lock them up. I don't care. I don't care how they got there. I don't. It doesn't matter how how disruptive their lives may have been. I don't want them coming after my son or my daughter. You know, like, and it was we gotta lock them up. We gotta throw them away. It was we must lock them up. Now that it's white people that are suffering from this like meth or fentanyl or whatever. Now it's a health issue. Now we need to be thinking of other ways to deal with it. And part of that has to deal with who our leaders were. Our leaders. The current crop of leadership needs to be fired because they're not representing our interest. They do not work for us. They they work for the establishment, and we're the currency. When it got to Middle America, it's about treatment. Exactly. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've got to yeah, we've got to actually start building, but this is what I talk about. Um and if you have so like okay, so let me go back to this. The family is the first step in a larger plan. You cannot deny the empirical fact. Just calling it a fact, an empirical fact, doesn't make it a fact. Um, but here's the thing. Okay, family is the first step in a larger plan. How do you fix it? How? Because you can say, okay, yes, we need black families. Okay, how do we fix that? How do we accomplish that? Is there a policy that we can make? Is there a policy that can be enacted at the state, local, or federal level that forces black people to marry each other and stay together? Is there a policy? You said, respectfully, most of what you've been saying is what white people have done, which I'm very well versed on. But when I said what happened to Black Wall Street, you said it was burned down. You didn't say anything about the urban renewal. You didn't say how Black Wall Street was actually destroyed, because that was just a warm up. The actual destruction was with the urban renewal. I care about change now, so tomorrow's better. You can't forget about you can't underestimate the tactics used from yesterday. You can't ignore the tactics used yesterday to cause destruction and think you're going to succeed today. Because if you ignore what's been done in the past, you won't see what's coming next. Like that's basic strategy. If you're dealing with an opponent who's done certain things already to effectuate your certain objectives, you've got to be prepared to counter those. That requires knowing what happened. Okay, so A, form an independent black state in America similar to that of Quebec in Canada, but that has its own independent governance. Or every man for himself, doing the best they can in the. Okay, so now forming an independent black state in America. Okay, forming an independent black state in America. How? Because I thought the first step in the plan was building the black family. I don't see how this is building the black family, and I don't even know. I mean, like that's a very large goal. Forming an independent black state. Like, how do we do that? Like that requires like legislation, right? Like that would require legislation. That would require a lot of organization. That would require a lot of relocation, because that would mean you'd have to now then start pulling black people from all over the country into one location. Like, how do we accomplish that? Um, so okay, you should all should read Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Let's see, I have it, but it's. I thought it was behind me. I have it on my bookcase. Um, but I haven't read Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington. I'm gonna have to check that out. Yes, that post traumatic slave syndrome is so, and I think that is one of the a critical read, because it gets us to look at what happened. Like, we have and continue to experience actual trauma, actual trauma, and we have to resolve that trauma to be healthier, to have healthier relationships. Like, if we ignore that trauma, it's going to continue to manifest in the way we interact with each other, whether in romantic relationships, family relationships, or even in just like, hey, if we want to look at the way black men interact with each other, where the level of aggression becomes like because like she talks about the what you looking at, whereas in she was talking about she was in certain communities, and I think it was in Africa, and they're the saying that the greeting they give translates to "I see you," but then in the States she would see young black men like look at each other and be like, "What you looking at?" And it was like this it was a completely different response to what should be like a feeling of camaraderie. It was a completely different response, and so I think that's a great read, post traumatic slave syndrome, and I think that's a great approach to making advancement, in that we have to actually start dealing with unresolved trauma. Um, what is crime? But hey, like I was just pointing out, if we start dealing with unresolved trauma, we can improve the relationships between black men and black men, and between black men and black women, because a lot of this is dealing with unresolved trauma. Change. I'm about change now, and the question is, what are we doing? What are we doing now? Um, Expecting things to be a sprint rather than a marathon. We didn't get here overnight. There is no one size fits all, and that's the key. It's not just, oh yes, let's just do this one thing and everything's better. It's not. And anyone that's saying that is trying to sell something. Um, so like when you have your Larry Elders talking about, yeah, we just need black families. He's trying to say something that has no no correlation to policy. Why is he saying something that has no correlation to policy? Because the lily whites in the Republican Party have no desire to actually craft policy to improve black conditions. So they will offer solutions that cannot possibly be affected by any of their policy. That their policy has no effect on, and they'll just say, "Oh, but this is the solution," and they will do nothing. And if you go with them, they will do nothing for you. Meanwhile, it's not just that, oh, the white family, that's what the problem in the white community is. No, it's they will find, oh, immigration is a problem, in white communities. It's bringing crime. It's sending jobs overseas. It's leading to wealth disparity. Like they will find a way to blame everything and everybody and everything else to try to fix something for white communities. But when it comes to black communities, yeah, figure it out. Figure it out. I say that because what we have done has not worked. I suggest that because we seem confused about what we really want to accomplish and why we haven't accomplished much after 300 years. No, we've accomplished a lot, but they keep coming up with new tactics, and that's what you seem to be ignoring. Because like you can't talk about solutions if you ignore the problems. You can't. So if you want to talk about solutions, you have to ignore the fact that the problems exist, and that these problems are intentionally being inflicted. That there's actual attacks being waged upon the black community to stop black progress. Like even if we take it back to this gender war, this is not coming out of nowhere. This whole gender war is not coming out of thin air. You've got these platforms that will promote the most toxic pieces of garbage on social media, and then just promote them and just keep pushing them because they're pushing anti-black hatred, and they're creating chaos within the black community, and they'll keep pushing it. Yes, it's up to us to not consume it, but at the same point, in addition to not consuming it, like we need to actively counter it. Like Dr. Claude Anderson said, if his calculations are correct, we still only own 1/2 of 1%. Yeah, that is very horrible. That's what I'm saying. You can't fight fires when you have arsonists running around burning everything in sight. Yeah, like there are people there are like people being sent to create chaos, and the gender wars are just one of these things. If you look at my community tab, I did the poll, And gender wars was the second thing that was found to be the um, most threatening to the black community. The first thing was diaspora wars, and so I'm going to be talking about that too soon. Um, yeah, this country always seems to have a them that they go after others in order to get the votes. NIMBY, as long as it happens over there, then I don't care. Yeah, but don't you think that waiting for policy is further entangling us in the government that you've admitted is anti-black? Like Malcolm said, the master's tools will not dismantle the master's house. So here's the thing. That's why I asked you, what is the plan? Because you're saying we need the black family. Okay, how do we do that? How do we do that? Because if you're because the people that I hear saying that are people like Larry Elder. So Larry Elder will run for governor in California, have no not a lick of policy, not a lick of policy, but then sit here and say, "Oh yeah, well the black community needs this black family." You have your Jason whatever that guy's name is. I can't remember his name. He he's on the Blaze now. He was in sports, but you have like Tatum and Candace, and they will all push this talking point. And the question is, they want us to vote Republican, and I'm like, wait, how does voting Republican save the black family? It does nothing. It does none of that. There's no policy that's connected. There's no policy that they can say that actually affects that. But now, if you're saying that from a standpoint that's not related to government policy, I want to know how you accomplish that. Jason Jason Whitlock. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Cornell. If you believe that people are being sent to create chaos and these people are in the government, why exactly do you believe they will create policy to help us? No, it's up to us to create policy to help us. It's up to us to create policy that counteracts the policy that's been used to destroy us. Now that's just part of the solution. That's just part of it. Because like I said, independence is key. We cannot be reliant upon this system, but we need to be moving. Right now, the system has too much control over our lives. Like right now, here in New York, like you could just take a look where they have these mandates where they're trying to force people what you have to put into your body in order to keep a job. These are the things we need to be countering on. But I'm still waiting to hear, how do we fix the black family? Because that's the first step, you said. If that's the first step, what do we do? I'm no fan of Larry Elder, Candace Tatum, by the way. I've said this before on the yeah. Listen, I get it, but that's what I'm saying. But you're saying the same thing that they're saying, and I'm waiting for an actual solution, because that's what they will say this, but they won't offer solutions on how we actually accomplish that. So it's that's why it's a talking point. It's not a talking point because it's not important. It's a talking point because there's no actual articulable direction being offered to get to that goal. Um, Strom Thurmond signed people for Claude Anderson. History will tell you that's not a very good argument. 1,000%. 1,000%. I like we're in complete agreement that the system has too much control of our lives. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like that's why like I've actually that's like my activism is centered around lessening government power. That's what my activism is centered around. Like that's what I do that. Like and I'm continuing and I'm putting together more stuff to actually accomplish these goals, because I see the system just growing in its strength and its power and its control of our lives, and it does not mean anything good for us. It's very bad for us as the system continues to grow in the amount of power it has over our lives. Here's the thing, in my view, they would push Larry Elder or Angela Stanton out there because they want to have us going. Well, listen, they pick and choose who they push, and whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, like with the Republicans, um, they will pick the certain types of conservatives that just push the talking points. So if you look at CPAC last year, where you had, Maj was there and you had other people, then you look at CPAC this year, and Sonny Johnson talked about it, how CPAC didn't invite anybody that was connected to her. And it's crazy because even last year they had Lawrence Jones there last year. But now Lawrence Jones, he's been doing prime time on Fox. He had been doing prime time on Fox, and he would bring Sonny Johnson, Maj Toure, Jeff Charles, Felicia Killens, like Sharice Lane. Like he'd bring all of these black conservatives that weren't pushing the King Randall. How did I leave King Randall off that list? That was crazy. Um, but he would bring all of these black conservatives that actually have a more direct messages for the black community and aren't just pushing talking points. And then suddenly he gets like they blackball him. Now they don't want him on the stage. But they brought Larry Elder, they brought Candace Owens, they brought the usual, just the tap dancers, the ones that get on there and talk about nothing, the ones that just say stuff that makes white conservatives feel good. No solutions, and definitely no solutions for us, but just no solutions. Just, yes, you're being canceled and you're being persecuted, and cancel culture and woke culture, and we need to change the culture because we can't let them take. They've taken Mr. Potato Head. We can't let them take any more. Like, this is the dumb stuff they're talking about. This is the dumb stuff they're talking about. But that's why they hand pick certain conservatives that they support and that they push. And then, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it still is. So, Kenny, do you realize the reason why Kyrie Irving isn't playing? They got rid of the key New York City. And I'm actually going to do a video about why they got rid of the key New York City. Because Eric Adams thinks he's slick. He thinks he's slick. I know why. And he pretended that it was about something else. But I know the real reason why Eric Adams got rid of the key New York City. But like why Kyrie Irving isn't playing is because they got rid of the key New York City, which was like that, you can't be in a stadium, you can't be in a museum, a restaurant without being vaccinated. But they kept the private sector mandate. So the private employer mandate says that every private employer in New York City has to have its employees vaccinated. That's why Kyrie Irving um, that mandate is still in place for now. We fix it by encouraging black men specifically about the importance of the family unit. It's easier to accomplish economic goals with two incomes instead of one. Someone supporting you, encouraging. Listen, definitely that's something to be done, to be encouraged. But like, if you look at what I'm talking about with the and I don't know if you've read post traumatic slave syndrome. I highly recommend it. We do have to address the unresolved trauma we have, because racially, like the racial trauma that black people feel and experience is very real, and it manifests in the way we interact with this society, where like, and just take a look at Ryan Coogler's reaction when those cops came around the corner. He really thought, and I fully believed it. He could have died that day. That's why he just, like, you saw his arms just out at the side. He just was rock still. because what we've seen in this country, what we've experienced in this country, lets us know like it this is very real, but we need to heal, and we need to acknowledge that we have something that we need to heal from. And some people don't want to talk about that, but we need to start having these discussions. So that's why when I'm talking about this stuff, it's not just about white man bad. No, it's about acknowledging what's happened. It's about acknowledging the realities of our situation, and it's about doing something about it. That's what I'm talking about. Keep in mind, I do not like either party, but it gets draining when I see black conservatives push the same old narrative. Absolutely, yeah. I hate both parties. Um, but yeah, like I've talking about on the stream, there's some of these clowns that just really are irritating. I hate Eric Adams, but not going into that. Listen, I feel you. I feel you. I'm a Christian, and it's a reason God established the family as the institution to propagate the earth. For me, family is spiritual. Now, my question to you is: do you do any ministry? Do you go out and and if you do ministry, do you have any suggestions, or are you aware of any way that to promote black relationships, black family structure to people who aren't religious? Because remember, not everybody is so while that may be individuals that are Christian, that may work. If there's individuals that aren't Christian, how do you reach them? That would be the question. um the wedge issues. Why did CRT start to become headline news? Because one side wanted to distract from what was going on. Definitely, we need to heal. I also hate both parties. I think, and that's I've as I'm talking about this. For instance, if you look at the right, like Candace Owens will say about the left, she'll say, "Oh, the left only accepts black people if they toe the party line, if they say X, Y, and Z. But if a black person doesn't agree with their positions, then suddenly the left shuns them." And guess what? She's right. But the right does the same thing. The Republicans will do, if you're not spouting the talking points, if you're not spouting these ridiculous talking points that Candace Owens and Tatum use, then the left, the right doesn't want you either. So like even if you just look at if you're not spouting whatever they want you to say, they don't accept you. Both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans. Like they only keep black people around that can act as a proxy for their validation. That's it. Okay, so you do ministry. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I get it. Um and so like there's a lot of work. But so if we want to talk about the black family, that's why I look at somebody like a Nicki Minaj, and I you can criticize her music. I get it. But guess what? She's a married woman. She's got her husband. She's got her kids. Kids are kids. Um, and she has a black family. That's a good thing. Take a look at LeBron. LeBron is a and LeBron didn't even know his father. Like his mother got pregnant, raised him as a single mom, and LeBron grew up to be a better man than his father. Yeah, exactly. The left and right do the same things, which is why I'm so frustrated, because the traditional way does not work. Absolutely, and I'm not waiting on the right or the left to solve our problems. Um, but like that's why I think it's important for us to minister in a sort of way to people who are on to black people on the right, black people on the left. And one of the things I'm working on, because I can be hypercritical, I can be, and that may not be the best way to reach certain people. So I'm not trying to reach Candace Owens, But there are people who listen to Candace Owens and think she makes sense. So you like I've encountered people like younger black people that see some of the hypocrisy from the left, and they hear Candace Owens say something, and they're like, "Well, I know the left isn't right, so maybe she is somebody that they think she's intelligent. They think she knows what she's talking about." But then when I start asking them questions, they're like there's a whole bunch of stuff they didn't know. So when I talk about things like well, okay, so like somebody was I was speaking to a young lady that was like Candace Owens, and she thought Candace Owens was made a lot of sense, and she was like, yeah, the welfare, and I said, okay, so welfare is bad for black people. There are more white people on welfare than black people. And number one, she had never even heard that. She had never even heard that. And so then I said, oh, you didn't even know that? So I went, found the stats, showed her the stats. And I said, okay, so if there's more white people on welfare than black people, how come welfare isn't harmful to white people, but it's harmful to black people? Silence. Now I don't that's just to start to let her realize, wait a minute. Like, yeah, she's not speaking the truth either. Like that's because like right now, a lot of people think, okay, if one side is lying, the other side is telling the truth. And no, you got to realize that both of these sides are lying. And the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are just two corrupt corporations that are colluding to control the government. That's it. And they have their mouthpieces that will just promote their brand at all costs. Um, that's what I'm trying to say. The system will do what it does, but what can I do to make things better for my family and by extension my community? Well, like you start with your family. But now, I mean, my if you haven't done it, like, is there a way for you to start something? So if you're not like, because built family building, I don't think that really is like a policy thing, but that could be a non-profit thing. So if you have a nonprofit that's focused on um, helping people build better relationships, um, helping, promoting, like black family, and I don't know what it would look like, but that's something I think that would be a good thing that could help because we do need healthier, and this gender war is the manifestation of unhealthy interactions between black men and black women, because right now we're not there's not enough communication with each other. There's too much talking about each other, not enough talking to each other. And so when I see situations where somebody as big as Nicki Minaj steps up to the plate and then says, like, basically, we're in this together. She expresses her love for black men, and she tells certain clowns to stop disrespecting black women. She says, "This is my message for them. I'm not coming after all black men." But like remember, like I said, there are people out here on these YouTube streets trying to pretend Nicki Minaj is coming for all black men. That's not what she said. That's not what she said. That's not what she's doing. Nicki Minaj was not and is not attacking all black men. She specifically and explicitly said this does not apply to all black men. This is a couple of idiots. That's who this is directed at. And then she said, "I love you, black men." That's what Nicki Minaj said. But a lot of people want to pretend she didn't say that because they're promoting a different agenda. They're promoting a different agenda that's based on chaos and division and just negativity. That's what they're trying to do. And that's why I'm like, okay, we need to get the voices out there. You've got Nicki Minaj, and there need to be counter. Needs to be counter information that is focused on building the black community and building up the black community and actually providing solutions for us going forward. Actually, on the education piece, I think it would be cool if these rich black celebrities would create STEM programs for black youth. STEM is so much better than just because there's a lot of, like 13 years. So when I ran for office, one of the things I was focusing on was education because I talked about how 13 years of public education and then only like you go to 13 years of public education and all you can do is get a job at McDonald's or Dwayne Reed. And I said, that makes no sense. If it takes you 13 years to teach somebody to work at McDonald's, your system sucks. Your system absolutely sucks. And we need to have schools, the curriculum changed in the schools where we can teach financial education, business management, entrepreneurship, stuff that can allow our kids to go to school and be bosses, be business owners, and not just be employees and low paid employees. And STEM is an awesome thing because that's like if we're talking about black independence, we need science, we need mathematics, we need doctors, we need like we need all of these things to build a stronger and an independent black community. Absolutely. Um, watch you about a year now. Great content. Like your independent view. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, it's there's hope. That's the message. There's hope. Um, because I was getting discouraged seeing all of these. You know, you've got your the divestors, you've got these toxic red pill guys, these um, and then you've got these just like anti-black woman guys that are out there just spouting all kinds of stuff. You've got these women talking about, oh yes, just get rid of black men, and I'm like, how is this stuff existing? But to see somebody step forward and say and like put her foot down to put her foot down to end this gender war, it's a huge step. And now we need to be talking to each other. Black men and black women need to be talking to each other, not just about each other. Um, keep up the great work. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. I say that because I see too many black kids thinking the only way to build wealth is to be a ball player or a musician or actor. Yeah, I mean, and you got to realize that that's all they wanted. That's all they would accept because in this society, in this society, intelligence in a black person is not considered an asset. Intelligent black people are considered a threat. Intelligent black people are not considered an asset to this society. They are considered a threat. But we can't let this society define who we are and who our children will be. Um, okay, so yeah, this was a really great live. And I really want to thank everyone for coming out here, Truth Teller, just Kenny, Cornell. Definitely want to thank Joe to go for the super chat. Um, thank you everybody for coming out. This was a great live, and I'm hoping I want you everybody have a great rest of your evening. And I'll see you next time.